afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Across the Fence. I'm Jolie Whitney. Our spotlight today is on AI, or artificial intelligence. What is it? Should it be embraced, feared, or ignored? We put all these questions into an AI program, and here's what it says for itself. Artificial intelligence represents a transformative technology that simulates human intelligence through algorithms and machine learning. By processing vast amounts of data, AI systems can recognize patterns, make decisions, and learn from experience, leading to advancements in various fields from healthcare to finance. Thank you, AI. This is a dense topic with a lot to unpack, so we're going to split this discussion over two programs. Today we'll talk about the positives, and tomorrow we'll focus on the negative aspects of this technology that's already impacting our lives. To chat with me about this topic is Bettyjo Bouchey. She is the Chief Officer of UVM Professional and Continuing Education Program, and before that, she worked as, you've been working with AI since 2022, isn't that right? So that's quite a wealth of experience considering kind of how new it is.
Just a little bit of experience, but I don't know if I would
Don't
call
undersell
it
yourself.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump in and first explain kind of what AI is.
Sure. So AI can be characterized in many ways, but perhaps the simplest version would be collections of technologies that help simulate thinking, right? So not a human doing the thinking, but a computer doing the thinking. So probably the most simple example or definition. And AI then has several layers, right? Machine learning, large language models, and deep learning models as well.
Sure. So to a layperson like myself, that seems very abstract, but we're already using it a lot in our daily lives, isn't that right?
We are, yes. So I think what I often talk about is, Siri and Alexa have been around for quite some time. That is AI, right? That, we've been talking to these bots, for lack of better words, for several years.
How do I watch UVM's Across the Fence?
Here's what I found.
Maybe we didn't make that perfect connection to that being artificial intelligence, but it certainly is.
And what's the difference between using AI and maybe a Google search? That's something we're much more familiar with.
Great question. So, and in fact, many of us that are also thinking about the computing power that it takes to power, say, a ChatGPT, we would really want you to use Google if all you wanted to do was retrieve information. So today, instead of using ChatGPT to ask about the election results, we would want you to use Google. For a few reasons. One is the power generation, but also that will give you the most sort of recent results. Whereas a ChatGPT is going to maybe consume something and create new information about your question.
All right, and you mentioned ChatGPT a couple times, and that's actually the program we used to write part of the intro that I read just a couple minutes ago. So what is ChatGPT? Is it free to use for everybody?
So yes, well, in a way, right? So as many things are, it's free and, right? So ChatGPT is a large language model. What it is trying to do is, just like we are right now, we're sort of kind of making up some of this as we go. Perhaps you're making up a little bit less than I am, but we're trying to sort of word by word think about how we want to form a sentence or a response. That's what an LLM, large language model, is doing, predicting that next word. So in a sense, it is sort of having a conversation, right? And ChatGPT, there is a free version of ChatGPT that you can use, anyone can use, or you can use the pro version, which I think is $20 a month right now. The free version is sort of titrated, right, based on traffic. So it will allow you to use all of the training data until there are too many people using it, and then it will revert you back to the original version, the original engine that was trained on data through 2022. So yes, it's free, but there are limitations to any free version of a software.
All right, and speaking of using that software, actually we're going to do a demonstration today.
Right.
Do you mind helping walk me through this? I was saying beforehand, I haven't used AI before, so this is new for me as well.
Yes.
All right.
So let's do, turn a little, okay. Let me get the ChatGPT tab
right there.
here.
Perfect.
I'm sort of in the, on the side of this that is difficult for me to use the mouse.
Oh, here, I can.
So yeah, if you want to,
Sure.
yeah.
All right, so where should I
You
go?
could probably even just click one of these questions.
Okay.
Oops.
Oh.
So this is a nice.
Tell me a fact about the Roman Empire.
That's fun.
We're going to learn today.
Let's see what happens.
All right. All right, so this is.
Here we go.
All right. So here's a fun fact. The ancient Romans were some of the earliest to use concrete on a large scale, and their version was incredibly durable. In fact, many Roman concrete structures like the Pantheon and Aqueduct are still standing today. And we've got a little bit more of an answer here. So this was gotten from things that ChatGPT found
data
online.
That is trained on publicly available data sources. You could, if you wanted to, at this point, say, that's not impressive, tell me something else.
Okay.
And it would continue to give you information about that original prompt.
Okay, so what if we asked it a question instead of kind of stating
Sure
a fact?
can,
Maybe let's
yes.
ask something that it's not.
We can go down here
Down
to the
here?
prompt at the bottom.
Oh, okay,
you
there.
go.
All right.
Yep.
All right, what should we ask? Let's ask it a question about across the fence.
There we go.
What is across the fence? Let's see what it says. Oh, so we're learning a dictionary definition here,
We
which I guess
are.
is understandable, though
Yes.
we will be hurt.
Yes, you will be hurt. Your feelings will be hurt this morning, but it will be okay. You can also ask it something funny.
Sure, yeah.
You know,
Let's
so
try.
I'll date myself. Who let the dogs out
Nice.
is always a fun one.
Let's see if I can spell it right first. Okay, so this is obviously, I don't know if hypothetical is quite the right word for it,
Let's
but
see.
not a.
Aha.
Oh.
So this is a smarter response, right?
Oh,
Yes.
who let the dogs out? Still a
That's
mystery.
still a mystery.
Not concluded in the
Indeed.
song.
Yeah, ChatGPT cannot solve this perennial mystery of who let the dogs out.
Okay, so we're definitely getting some lengthy answers there. And is
Right.
that, like we were saying before, is that based in fact? Is all of that information inherently accurate?
No, just like anything else, right? Again, it's trying to simulate maybe how a human would respond to the same question. And humans can also say things that are not factual, as we know, right? So I think we have to temper what we get out of any type of query, whether we're using ChatGPT or talking to a human. And that type of critical reasoning, I think, is a really important part of, you know, how we continue to contextualize the use of AI in our everyday lives. Does this feel right? Does it feel biased, or does it feel like it's missing a piece of information? And do I want to continue prompting and asking more specific questions because of that?
All right, and kind of speaking of things that you can find with AI, there's also an image generator, isn't that right?
Yes, yeah, quite a few nice ones actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. So I think we're going to give one of
I think
those
we
a try
are,
as
yeah.
well.
I think we used. I think
Let's
we're gonna
see,
use
Canva. So should we start designing?
I think we want to start designing.
Great.
Yes. Oh, of course we need a
Oh,
login.
no.
Yes, so that we probably could have queued up a little bit. So, you know, I will say what's interesting about the sort of image creation tools that we're seeing either on their own in a Canva platform or as an add-on to ChatGPT. Their version is called DALL-E, right? Is that it is sort of a very quick way for a layperson to be able to generate an image, right? That is very contextual, right? I want an image that conveys warmth and compassion for my counseling practice, right? So you can use these words, these prompts to create images that really convey and sort of, bring those feelings into that narrative. So I think it's a really nice tool for that. Some of the downsides, of course, just like everything else that is coming through a large language model or an image creator, is we don't actually know where all of these things are coming from, right? There are some really nice exemplars. So Shutterstock, will compensate their content creators if their pieces of their images and their art are used to create new images. So we are seeing some more responsible, platforms crop up, but we also just don't know where that art is coming from, right? So we really have to think about, do we want to attribute, right? Do we want to say this was an image created from, Canva? I would argue that we do.
And how much of the information you get back from ChatGPT or other services like that is about how you ask the question?
It is always about how you ask the question. I think and again, let's go back to the correlate with a human conversation. If we say something like, show me some recipes, right? You're going to get a smattering of recipes. Or if I say, please tell me, what you want for dinner tonight, right? Like, these are pretty big questions. as opposed to saying, I need a recipe that uses broccoli and chicken, et cetera, right? So the more specific we are, the more guardrails we give to a prompt in a large language model, the better results we're going to get. But if you ask a big question, you're going to get a lot of vague, sort of fuzzy information back. I think the good news is, you know, back to the critical reasoning, we can be thinking, you know, is this enough? Do I want to continue to ask more specific questions about the result that I got as well?
And you work in academics, so what's kind of the role of ChatGPT or other things when it comes to issues of plagiarism?
Sure, so a big dialogue, as you may imagine. Of course, plagiarism, I think, was probably one of the first sets of conversations that were happening in higher ed. I think we're starting to move a little bit past that. But does the sort of proliferation of LLMs and writing assistants, you know, kind of disrupt the idea that writing is knowledge? Absolutely, right? So if we say the only way to demonstrate knowledge is by someone generating original words, then this is a significant disruption to that. So I think the good news is we can be thinking about, are there other authentic ways for us to measure learning? So I think that's a piece of it. Can we sort of give students and learners permission to use AI, you know, within some constraints? Absolutely. I think what we also need to think about is, as our current learners are moving out into their careers, they will ever more be asked to use AI. So it is also our responsibility to show them how to ethically and responsibly use AI. So I think we can model that by us sort of embracing it within constraints, just like they will in their future careers.
Sure, knowing
as well.
it's part of our world now.
Right, right.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yes, my pleasure.
And that takes care of our program for today. I hope you enjoyed part one of this two-part program, and you can tune in then to see that. And we're talking a little bit more about the darker side of artificial intelligence. And I want to thank the very real and very human crew behind the scenes here at WCAX who makes our program happen. I'm Jolie Whitney. This is Across the Fence. Have a good one.